And so, Michael, as our last question in terms of the plan, where do we go from here? We're going to talk about the plan through this last question. Then we're going to take a 15-minute break and then do Q&A with the audience, one-on-one with the panels. It's going to be a formatted thing, but we're going to stay here until all your questions are answered. How do we get the plan, and when will you come back and present the plan?
So basically the plan is, like I said, we all have to play our part of the field. We have to get the right people elected. We have to have people like Amanda Rigby, stepping up and saying, hey, when there are CCW issues with our sheriff, we have to be able to present consequences. We have to be able to present a true voice, because if it's one person, if it's just Amanda Rigby, or if it's just one person saying, hey, I want you to respect my gun rights, it's nowhere near as impactful as a group of people. And unfortunately for years, we've kind of all been out on our own island as gun owners. I know, I've heard of people that in their job, they kind of have to sneak around and, I went to the range, like, oh, somebody's coming, and we have to turn that around. And, Amanda's been doing a fantastic job with the CCW issue, but she's one voice, and we all have to be behind her. In fact, could you tell them a little bit about what you're doing with the sheriff and CCWs?
Sure, thank you. As you know, California is considered a may issue state, which means that the issuing body of any jurisdiction can decide whether or not they're going to issue. It is not a shall issue state, as some are. And in the case of Peruta, it was determined by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that self-defense was not actually justification for a concealed carry permit. It was not good cause. And good cause, they have said you have to have good cause, but they haven't articulated it. They haven't been able to define it. And along with a lot of the issues that we've talked about, assault weapons, I'm a firm believer that every single elected official, no matter what level, once they take office, they should be handed a copy of the Constitution and a dictionary. Because if they were to read the dictionary, they would know that assault is actually a verb, it's a behavior, it is not an object. And they're trying to regulate an object based on behavior, and it's created what we have now. And so for Peruta to say that you have to show good cause, meaning you have to have a provable reason to need to carry outside your home. Heller, as it was discussed, gave us the right to defend ourselves inside our home. Peruta said you might not have that right outside your home unless you get good cause. Now, in my work, aside from city council years ago, I was working at the courthouse in Vista, and I was the coordinator for the Domestic Violence Restraining Order Clinic. I myself have been the victim of a stalker who escalated the behavior into breaking into my home in the middle of the night while I was there. This is when I was single and young many years ago. I was terrified. When you're asking somebody to give provable good cause as to why we should give you a concealed carry permit to defend yourself outside your home, I have seen firsthand how sometimes that proof is at a funeral. We must get people in Sacramento and our sheriff, who I have met with, I've sat down with him, had a conversation about concealed carry. We must get people to understand that, yes, unlike the decision in Peruta where it said the Constitution does not give you that right, we need them to understand that it actually does give us the right to defend ourselves no matter where we are. And we have provisions in California that if you're going to get a concealed carry, that you have to have training and et cetera. There is a process. But one of the other issues with concealed carry in California is it's a may issue, which means you have a sheriff here who is not inclined to, even for elected officials and other people, not inclined to grant them. But you have counties in California where they do grant them. And that, as we heard a little bit about from John talking about it, that's unequitable in California. You have certain residents or citizens who are being treated differently than other citizens in other parts of the state. So that is a fight that we have to fight and get people to understand. But coming coming to this 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, the state assemblywoman, and you might know her, Melissa Melendez, introduced legislation in California, and it's AB 757, that would make California as a shall issue state instead of a may issue state. So that is another piece of legislation that we really need to have an organized, loud effort to stand behind that legislation, to promote that legislation, to contact everybody in Sacramento, to really push that legislation through. And in my discussion with Sheriff Gore, he was very, very nice. He was very agreeable to the discussion. And we talked about many things because my city of Vista is a contract city with the Sheriff's Department. So there were a lot of issues to talk about. But his position on why he does not grant concealed carry as a shall issue county is because he says that he is following the law as it came down in the Peruta case. And I don't know if John can speak more to that. But in good cause, you have to show good cause. And if you don't show good cause, then you cannot get it. And again, that's where a lot of the glitch is it's been undefined. The state hasn't been able to say exactly what good cause is. It seems to be subjective to the jurisdiction that's issuing. So I would like to see we get behind AB 757, we get the information out there, we get the education out there, we get the San Diego County gun owners, we get other organizations that have a voice and advocacy in Sacramento and get behind this. And also continue your phone calls and your letters to the sheriff and let him know that this is an important issue to all of us, because every single one of us has the right to defend ourselves no matter where we are.
And just to circle back, so what's the plan? Well, we've had this litigation, we've had Peruta, it's been going on for 8 years. They're doing a fantastic job of putting legal pressure on. And now what we need to do is we need to have political pressure and we need to have public pressure. And frankly, neither one of those things has been happening in San Diego ever,
Right.
ever. So, you know, when people support him politically, if people are endorsing Sheriff Gore, different organizations are endorsing Sheriff Gore, you know, we need to basically go after them and say, hey, we don't agree, that's the wrong thing to do. And then the public pressure. You know, people haven't really been putting pressure on Gore at all. He kind of has fallen back, as Amanda said, on this, well, gee, there's this court case, blah, blah, blah. Well, there have been 3 decisions in this court case, and none of them say that he can't issue.
Right.
In fact, he has the unfettered ability to decide what is good cause, and it is his personal decision, his policy internally, to decide to have an extremely high, almost unattainable bar for that good cause. He can issue right now for self-defense. That he knows that the state's given him the authority to do that. Nothing in any of these court cases has ever stopped him from doing that. But that type of public pressure, you know, going in the media, talking to your neighbors, you know, that sort of thing, that's the plan, is to start to bring public and political pressure against people who are against your Second Amendment rights.
Exactly.
All right. So we're going to take a short break. There's a concession stand out there, and of course we have our sponsors. You can visit their tables. Short 15-minute break. Come back with your questions, because then we're going to open it up to audience.
Without someone doing something about it, it's not going to get any better.